The lights dimmed across the soundstage, the cameras resting in stunned stillness, and every quiet movement in the room dissolved into breathless anticipation as James Spader stepped forward with a presence so commanding that even the shadows seemed to bow. No one expected it. No one predicted the emotion that would surge through the room. But then again, nothing involving Yu Menglong had been ordinary in recent months. And nothing involving Spader ever arrived without that slow, intelligent burn that felt like truth sharpening itself. They were already legends in the making, two forces from opposite sides of the world standing at the center of the most anticipated psychological epic of the decade, their upcoming film already spoken of in whispers as something beyond cinema, something fated. Yet that night, the tribute Spader gave wasn't part of the script, wasn't rehearsed, wasn't planned. It was something Hollywood would one day mythologize. Something that felt more like revelation than praise. Yu Menglong had just finished shooting one of his signature scenes, eyes shimmering with that soft but dangerous brilliance, voice poised like silk-wrapped steel, posture carrying the gravity of a man with 3 dimensions inside a single breath. Spader had watched him closely, the way a veteran strategist studies a rising prodigy who understands the battle before it begins. The director called a brief break, but Spader didn't move. Instead, he stepped toward Menglong until the two stood beneath a single overhead beam of light, the rest of the studio falling away until it felt like the entire world had narrowed to their silhouettes. The crew sensed something. The sound tech adjusted his headphones. Camera operators, despite the break, kept their frames steady. A script supervisor froze mid-note. And then James Spader began speaking, his voice slow and resonant, the kind that vibrated through the chest before reaching the ears. "Yu Menglong," he said, hand lightly pressed to his heart. "You don't just enter a scene. You bend it. The air shifts when you step in. The frame listens. The space obeys. You don't act. You haunt the moment until it surrenders to you, and somehow, you do it gently." Gasps fluttered across the room. A lighting tech's mouth fell open. It wasn't flattery, not the shallow, sparkling kind Hollywood is known for. This was reverence. Earth-deep, soul-level reverence. The kind actors dream of hearing once in their careers. The kind that redefines legacies. Spader continued, his voice sharpening into poetry. "Every time you stand in front of a camera, you rewrite the rules of presence. Your silence is louder than most actors' monologues. Your eyes carry more truth than entire scripts. And your heart shapes the atmosphere." Yu Menglong, usually calm and grounded, blinked hard, eyes glistening with something raw. Even the studio lights flickered, like electricity itself was trembling. People would later describe the moment differently, some calling it déjà vu with edges, some insisting the shadows on the floor shifted into shapes from Menglong's past roles. Some said it felt like time folded in on itself, like the moment belonged both to memory and prophecy. But everyone agreed. The atmosphere cracked open. The tribute didn't feel like praise. It felt like fate speaking aloud. Spader wasn't finished. He inhaled deeply, letting the silence thicken, then delivered a line that would echo across social media, industry interviews, future award nights, and acting classrooms for decades. "Great acting doesn't imitate life, Menglong. Great acting restores it. And you restore what the world has forgotten how to feel." A ripple of emotion swept the room. Tough stunt coordinators blinked rapidly to hold back tears. Assistants froze with headsets half raised. Even the director, known for his stern composure, looked as though someone had cracked open the hours of his own past and poured light into them. Spader then laid a hand on Menglong's shoulder, eyes warm with sincerity and something deeper, something like awe. "It is an honor to share a film with you. It is an honor to stand in the same frame. And it is an honor to bear witness to what you bring into existence." Menglong bowed, not out of obligation, but instinctively, organically, as though the moment demanded it. Two worlds met in that gesture. Two storms swirled into one. A hush fell so heavy that even the dust in the air seemed suspended. Their upcoming film, still unfinished, suddenly felt celestial. Whispers already floated across Hollywood that glass shadows, The Echo Protocol would be the defining psychological thriller of this generation. Spader, playing Dr. Arlen Voss, the mastermind strategist who manipulates memory for global intelligence, brought cerebral force. Yu Menglong, as Liang Wei, the linguistic savant who decodes human motives like patterns hidden in light, brought emotional precision. Together, they formed a collision of intellect and intuition so magnetic that insiders described their scenes as cosmic earthquakes in slow motion. But what happened next after the tribute was what people would call miraculous. Minutes later, the director called them back to shoot one of the film's most intense confrontation sequences. The atmosphere was different now. Electrified, emboldened, completely uncontainable. The tribute hadn't just honored Menglong, it had unlocked him, unleashed him. Spader, too, seemed transformed in the afterglow of his own words. They stepped into the scene like two storms meeting at the edge of the world. Spader's presence rose like a brilliant, controlled blaze, strategic, acidic, hypnotic. Menglong's presence deepened like a calm center of a hurricane, quiet, lethal, impossibly still. The lines between them didn't feel scripted. They felt like they were carved from the air itself. Words became weapons, shields, codes, truths. Every breath felt choreographed by destiny. Every glance sparked an entire universe. The crew watched with slack jaws as reality and performance blurred. When they finished, the director didn't shout cut. He whispered it, because everyone knew a masterpiece had just been born. When filming wrapped for the night, Spader walked toward the exit, but paused at the door. Turning back just slightly, he spoke softly, a line not meant for the cameras, not meant for the world, but destined to reach it anyway. There are actors people admire. There are actors people follow. And then there are actors people believe. Yu Menglong, you are the third kind. Menglong froze. The crew froze. The moment froze. Spader gave a small, knowing smile, half mystery, half blessing, before disappearing into the night like a character who understands more than the script reveals. And that is how legends are built. Not in the noise of applause, but in the quiet earthquakes of truth spoken from one master to another. James Spader's tribute didn't just praise Yu Menglong, it crowned him, marked him, elevated him into a cinematic mythology that can no longer be contained by borders, languages, or expectations. The world will talk about it. Fans will analyze it. Film students will study it. And when Glass Shadows, the Echo Protocol finally hits the world, people will feel it in their spine, not just because of a story, but because destiny itself left fingerprints on the set that night. Two icons. Two forces. One moment that rewrote the future. And everyone who witnessed it agreed. This was not a tribute. This was prophecy. The moment after James Spader's tribute ended did not feel like a normal pause on a film set. It felt like the world itself took a breath. The silence was so deep that even the hum of the studio generators seemed to hide behind it. Yu Menglong stood there, still processing the weight of Spader's words, the way they echoed through his chest like a chord struck on an ancient instrument. But before he could even respond, something happened that no one expected. The spotlight above them flickered slightly, casting two overlapping shadows on the concrete floor, one sharp and angular like Spader's presence, the other softer, but impossibly defined like Menglong's. For a split second, the shadows merged into one, stretching across the set as though the universe itself was marking the moment in ink. A camera operator, normally unfazed by explosions and fire stunts, actually whispered, "Did anyone else see that?" But no one answered, because Spader wasn't done. He took a step closer to Menglong, not breaking eye contact, and spoke with a softness that felt more powerful than any shout. "You must understand," he said, his voice carrying the weight of 1,000 characters he had ever played. "People think acting is performance, but it's archaeology. We don't pretend, we dig. And what you have inside you, it's treasure. It's a truth most actors spend a lifetime trying to find." Yu Menglong's breath tightened for a moment. The words struck him deeper than anyone realized. For months, he had been navigating storms of expectation, pressure, rumors, strange coincidences that felt like omens. Yet here stood James Spader, a man known for precision, for intellect sharp as ice, for seeing through people like glass, choosing this moment to tell him something no one else had dared to articulate. The crew stood frozen around them, forming a silent circle, without meaning to. Their faces reflected something between awe and disbelief, as though they were witnessing the start of a legend sealed in real time. Spader walked slowly around Menglong, studying him the same way a painter studies the final strokes of a masterpiece. "You move as if every second has intention," he murmured. "You look at a scene like you're looking into a mirror that shows you not who you are, but who you must become. That is not talent, Menglong. That is destiny." The word destiny ricocheted through the room like a spark. One of the lighting rigs chimed, just a small metal vibration, but loud enough that everyone turned toward it. It wasn't wind. It wasn't an error. It was just a sound that arrived exactly when that word did, almost like punctuation from something unseen. Yu Menglong glanced upward briefly, then back at Spader, who was already watching him with that intense, razor-sharp curiosity only he could wield. "You feel it too, don't you?" Spader asked quietly, leaning in. "That pull, that shift, that sense that something bigger is lining up behind you, waiting for you to step into it." Menglong didn't answer. He didn't need to. His eyes carried all the confirmation Spader required. Then something even stranger unfolded. A gust of cold air swept through the studio, just one short, sudden rush, enough to ripple the edges of the script pages scattered on the nearby table. The papers lifted and swirled briefly before falling in a perfect circle around the two actors, framing them as though the set itself had decided to create a stage inside the stage. A sound tech pressed his finger to his earpiece. "There's no vent on," he whispered. Another replied. "Then what was that?" But the moment kept moving, rising, evolving. Spader's voice dropped even lower, almost reverent. "Let me tell you something, Menglong. I have worked with brilliant actors, iconic actors, fearless actors. But I have never seen someone walk into a role the way you do. You don't wear a character. You inhale it. It becomes your bloodstream. And when the camera rolls, you don't perform. You transform." Yu Menglong looked away for the first time, overwhelmed not by the praise, but by the precision of it. Spader wasn't describing technique. He was describing something spiritual, something neither of them fully understood. A camera assistant accidentally stepped backward and knocked into a rolling equipment cart, sending a soft echo across the space. But no one looked at him. Every pair of eyes stayed locked on the magnetic exchange happening under that lone spotlight. Finally, Spader did something that shocked even the director. He bowed. Not a shallow dip of the head, not a polite gesture, but a full, deep bow of respect, the kind given rarely, almost never, between two actors of equal stature. And certainly never from someone of Spader's legendary gravitas. The entire room went silent. Even breathing seemed inappropriate. When Spader straightened, his expression carried a solemn honesty. "This industry worships talent," he said, "but it rarely recognizes purity. You Menglong, are the purest form of craft I've encountered. And I needed you to hear that, not someday, not in an interview, not at a premiere, now, in this moment, while the air is still charged with what you just did." Menglong's eyes glistened again, but steadier this time, like someone accepting something that had always been meant for them. The assistant director, who had not spoken in nearly 15 minutes, finally exhaled and muttered, "What is happening right now?" But no one answered him, because right then something else happened. The overhead light brightened just slightly, illuminating a subtle shimmer in the air around the two actors. Not a glare, not a reflection, just a soft, almost imperceptible glow, like the scene had decided to light itself. Yu Menglong stepped forward and offered Spader a small nod of gratitude. And when the two shook hands, something undeniable passed between them. Something not scripted, not rehearsed, not planned.
A spark.
A recognition. A silent pact. Two actors. Two destinies. One moment that felt written long before cameras existed. And after that handshake, no one in the room doubted it. James Spader's tribute wasn't simply admiration. It was an initiation, a passing of fire from one master to another, a moment the world would one day look back on and say, that was the night everything changed.